My name is Nonima Tikela. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to talk about Brigadier Gininda and his so-called findings when it comes to Ntanzi. And I want us to break it down a bit. We're doing a reminder of what was said about Ntanzi in that courtroom of Chatrata. So today, let's check some of the details and talk about things that Uram Sipile needs to ensure he actually triple checks them and deals with them decisively without a fear or favor, and he's absolutely making sure all is well for Ntanzi way too, so that he can walk, okay? Because guys, it's not looking good for Ntanzi's case at all. Anyway, they told South Africa it was a robbery, the people inside the house. You would remember that. They told the nation that Senzo Meyiwa died because the criminals panicked. But more than a decade later, that story is collapsing piece by piece inside a courtroom. And the center of that collapse stands with one man, Brigadier Bongani Gininda himself, the G-man, Nicholas. Yes, that man. Now, 26 October 2014, a national captain, a World Cup bound goalkeeper, a hero of Orlando Pirates, and Bafana Bafana, South Africa's first love. Okay, let me say, for that time, he was our first love. That time. Don't quote me on this, okay? Shot dead in a living room, inside a house full of people. No forced entry, no stolen valuables, no fingerprints tying the story together. Yet the country was told it was robbery gone wrong. Funny enough, in this robbery gone wrong, do you know what was strange? The crime scene was cleaned. Pine gel was everywhere. It was, by the time police arrived, the smell of pine gel was overwhelming. Yet they told the country it was robbery gone wrong. You heard that right? You heard me right? Don't even, yes, correct. That's what they told us. Now, years later, years passed, dockets gathered dust, evidence stalled, truth went missing until 2018. Okay? Apparently, we have a cold case that wasn't supposed to wake up, Kesana. 2018, when Brigadier Bongani Gininda took over the investigation, this case was already considered politically radioactive. Multiple dockets, contradictory statements, unfinished ballistics, witness who had changed their versions or vanished entirely. There was a lot that was going on. At first, Gininda himself told the court he did not believe they were intruders. Let that sink in. At first, he did not believe that they were intruders. Himself, Gininda. The lead investigator initially believed no one entered that house. Just like us, noble South Africans. He believed the same. But then something changed. Not one thing, not a confession, not a rumor, a pattern. Gunshots residue tests were not done, right? So we don't have them. We don't know who has them, who doesn't, whatever it was, they were not done. Cell phone records, they say a lot of things. Eyewitness description that didn't match, and the biggest red flag of all, nothing was stolen in that house. I don't care who says what. Nxumalo helped us and exposed the cell phone that they claimed was stolen. It was there in that house. Yep. No phones, no cash, no valuables. In a robbery, Kesan, nothing was stolen. The car of Senzo Meyiwa was outside. The car of Longwe was outside. And I hear the so-called accused, 3, 4, and 5, apparently they are drivers. They do drive. So if they were there to do a robbery, then why didn't they take the 2 cars? Okay, I choose number 5 was a so-called driver. 3 and 4, they drive. Why didn't they take the 2 cars? Why didn't they enter the house and take and ask for car keys and take the cars and leave. There was a BMW X5 or X6, I could be mistaken. And also there was a red Polo outside. So if we are being made to believe something happened there, why was those cars not stolen? Then when Gininda's conclusion hadn't, Gesana, this was not a robbery. Sharp Gininda, we agree because we know that there were no people that went there to agree. But wait, Gininda is changing the tune. He's like, yeah, it was not a robbery. And I am backtracking from saying there was no entry there. No, there was. This was a hit. That is what Gininda claimed. And then an arrest happened. Mind you, when this arrest happened in 2020, there was accused one of the case. Zamokuhle Mbatha. Gininda did not care about that. Now he comes for the 5 men. In 2020, 5 men were arrested, not immediately after the murder, not months later, 6 years later. 6 years later, they got arrested, and the delay became the defense's favorite weapon because, sir, you're going to have to make it make sense. What do you mean these 5 were involved? Because Gininda's case relied on something exclusive, confessions. And that's what they kept saying during the media interviews and that media briefing that they did. 2 of them. In fact, 3, because apparently Ntanzi did 2 and then Muzi 1. 1 from Muzi Sibiya, and 2 far more damaging from Bongani Ntanzi. 1 that was not damaging, 2 that was far more damaging from Bongani Ntanzi. According to Gininda, Ntanzi didn't just confess once. He confessed twice, 5 days apart, after consulting a lawyer, which Ntanzi denies, once before the magistrate, once before a senior officer. And what he allegedly said blew the case wide open because what on earth? And in his confession, Ntanzi allegedly didn't describe a robbery. He described a contract killing. He named accomplices. He described entering the house. He admitted a struggle, and he said the fatal shot was fired. But then came the line that froze the courtroom. He named a person who ordered the hit, Kelly Kuman. This is the alleged so-called confession. According to Gininda's testimony, Ntanzi claimed the hit was worth 100K, 100,000 rands. He claimed the payments were made. He claimed the plan was clear. He claimed Senzo was the target. And suddenly, this wasn't just a murder trial anymore. It became South Africa versus truth it had avoided for years. Because we were like, something is offish about this story that Gininda is trying to tell us. And the defense did not hold back. They strike back, yes, and the response was brutal from the defense. Gininda was accused of lying under oath, fabricating evidence, manipulating witnesses, even offering 3 million bribes. The defense said the case is built on coerced confessions. They said there is no physical evidence. They said Gininda wrote the story to fit a narrative. And then came the most dangerous battlefield of all, the trial within a trial, where the confessions voluntarily or written out needed to be found out. If that happened, if the accused were beaten up, if they volunteered for this information, Gininda stood firm, Gesan. No torture, no bribes, no shortcuts, just evidence corroborated piece by piece according to Gininda. Yet we are still waiting for that evidence, guys. We are still waiting. Now, as of 2026, the trial drags on into 2026. South Africa is split in 2. I also believe, Ukuti, we are not just split in 2. Yes, there are people that are saying they are team state, but it's not a lot of them. Because people keep finding out and people keep learning. No, man, there's no way. Something is off there. Do you understand? Some see Gininda as the man who resurrected a buried truth regarding the Senzo matter. Others see him as the architect of a case built too late, too weak, too reliant on words without proof. And I'm one of those people. But here is the uncomfortable reality. This case refuses to collapse. Ne? Despite contradictions, despite delays, despite attacks, because one question still has no answer. If this was robbery, where is the robbery? Right? And if it was a hit, who truly ordered the hit? Because both stories are not making sense and there is no evidence of both stories, a robbery gone wrong and a hit. There is nothing that assists those narratives. Absolutely nothing, guys. Ayiko nje. Ayiko. This is no longer about justice for Senzo Meyiwa. This is about how justice works in South Africa, who is protected and who is expendable. And when the judgment finally comes, it won't just decide the fate of the 5 accused men. It will decide whether the truth survived 10 years of silence, or justice delayed is just tested, or justice delayed is justice tasted. And this courtroom of Judge Ratta is where South Africa will finally be forced to look itself in the mirror and ask very uncomfortable questions. Is this the kind of justice that we want as South Africans? Is this the kind of getting justice we want as South Africans? So there's a lot that is going to happen, but time will tell and we will see. Let's talk with comment section. What are your thoughts about this? I want to hear your views. Do you still remember all of this, or it's just me and Papela? I'll see you. Bye-bye.